Hi, David.
Hi, Karat.
Tell us, what's the difference between risk appetite and risk tolerance?
There's a lot of confusion in this area, and I think it's because, as I mentioned in an earlier question, risk appetite is quite a recent topic of development, a topic of interest in the business world. And there's no real consensus on how risk appetite is defined. And there are a lot of other related terms. So you say risk appetite and risk tolerance. We've got risk thresholds, risk capacity, risk preference, risk propensity, risk attitude, risk aptitude, on and on and on, risk perception. All of these words, they're kind of related, and there's a lot of overlap between them and a lot of confusion, and particularly this word risk tolerance. I wrote a book with a colleague which we called A Short Guide to Risk Appetite. It is short. I guess it's about 80 or 100 pages. It costs about $20. But in that we've tried to dispel the confusion, to start with first principles. Appetite is being hungry. Risk appetite is your hunger to take risk. Appetite is expressed in an amount of food, which is a proxy. Risk appetite is expressed in measurable risk thresholds, plus or minus an amount of risk we will be prepared to take. Now, tolerance, the problem with tolerance is that we use it in two different ways in the English language. So tolerance can be how much of something you're prepared to bear. You know, your kids might be a little bit naughty, and if they're a little bit naughty, that's okay. If they're very naughty, then you won't tolerate that and you discipline them. Your customer might change a few of the small requirements in your contract, and you can tolerate that. If they want to change a major requirement, then you can't tolerate that and you need to go and negotiate a contract change. You might have a little bit of lateness in your employees. They turn up 5 minutes late, we can tolerate that. They turn up an hour late, we can't tolerate that. So that's an amount of something you're prepared to bear, which sounds a bit like risk appetite. But we also use tolerance in a measurement. So you measure something with a tolerance of 5 degrees or 10 degrees, plus or minus. It sets up an upper and a lower boundary on a measurement. You have a tolerance. And that sounds a bit like risk thresholds, where thresholds are saying around a particular objective, then it could be a little bit more risk or a little bit lower risk. And so those expressions of risk appetite, we express risk appetite in risk thresholds. Risk tolerance could mean the appetite, how much we'll bear, or it could mean the thresholds plus or minus measurements. So risk tolerance is a particularly unhelpful term because it's ambiguous. It has two potential meanings. And for that reason, I would recommend that we don't use it. That actually risk tolerance, we think about what do we mean. When we say tolerance, is it how much we're prepared to bear, which is then really risk appetite? Or do we mean something that we can measure with a plus and minus boundary, in which case we mean thresholds? And let's not use this confusing phrase at all.
Thank you so much, and that was really well put.
Good, I'm glad. Thank you.